Now this is the part of the video where I talk about each component of the drum set and how each component, whether drum related or cymbal related, all fits to create this absolutely wacky and fun and very progressive rock influenced drum set. So, starting with the main kick drum, we have 22 by 18. First of all, this drum set is made up of two drum sets. It contains components from my bop kit, and it also contains components from my studio kit. And what we'll do is we'll go over all the stuff in the studio kit, and then we'll go over the stuff in the bop kit. So, the studio kit, which is the bulk of the kit, I have the Mapex Pro M 15th anniversary, beautiful drum set. I have an 18 by 22 inch kick drum. I have a 10 by 8 inch rack tom. I have a 12 by 10. Yep, 12 by 10. 10 by 9, yeah, 10 by 8, 12 by 9, sorry, 12 by 9, 13 by 10. Definitely 13 by 10. 14 by 14 inch floor tom. And then for this kit, we have 8 inch by 8 inch. Yeah, 8 inch by 8 inch rack tom tuned really high. And 10 inch by 8 inch. 10 by yeah, I think it is a 10 by 8. If you were a 10 by 8 or 10 by 9, and I purposely do get a lot of rim shots on these rack toms when I'm playing certain fills and stuff, just to bring out a unique vibe. And then for the satellite kick drum, I have an 18 by 14 inch kick drum. So the idea for the 22 and the 18 came from checking out some videos I saw of Primus playing live with Tim, and he had two Tama 22 inch kick drums, but he was doing a lot of really cool, unique stuff with the double pedal. And what I've noticed about Primus's music in general is, even though it is influenced by metal, there's very few times in a Primus song where you'll hear the kick drum doing just a straight stream of 30-second notes, right? It's very, the double bass is more to complement certain fills and to add really cool low-end interest to funky grooves, right? Syncopated doubles and triplet stuff, a lot of like bottom stuff. I heard a lot of bottom influences in Herb's playing, also one of their drummers. And so I love double bass, but I'm primarily a single pedal player. And so when I was playing for these songs, I found that most of those fast triplet and those fast double stuff I could do with just using a single. By the way, the pedal is Falcon. Great pedal. I love this pedal. The response is incredible. It's just great. But I could do a lot of the with a single pedal. Then I decided, because I definitely wanted to kick drums, and I thought, what would be more creative and unique than taking a progressive fusion approach to having two different kick drums? So I've seen some other fusion drummers do this. I've seen Russ Miller do this. But the idea was to have a very different sounding secondary kick drum that could be a cool complement and just add another low-end type of sound that's almost like a 20 tuned to a medium, So I wanted them to still sound relatively close together because I have the pedals located close enough that even within the span of, say, a 2-bar pattern or one bar for a song that's more like the tempo of like Shake Hands with Beef or something, I can play this kick drum and this kick drum like almost simultaneously. Basically, I can play the downbeats with this kick drum and then play more the doubles, the diddles kind of stuff with the 18th. So a quick example would be is actually a Tama pedal, and it's normally a double pedal, but I took the shaft off to make it a single pedal. But yeah, great. Okay, so that's all of the toms. That's the kick drum. Snare drums. We have for the main snare, a medium high tuned snare that actually came with this kit. Great snare. This kit, by the way, is I said it's a bop, and specifically the Mapex Meridian Maple. That's an excellent kit. And the snare is also really good. Excels really well at medium-high tunings. It's not tuned as high as, again, notably Tim's snare, because one thing that's important to y'all, I noticed from that Facebook post y'all put out, is y'all really do value hearing drummers and the kind of special sauce, you know, that kind of, you wanted to hear the drummers express their playing personality through the Primus's songs. And so what I did through Primus's songs, yes, what I did is I left this tune medium high with a nice tight snare tension to do. Incorporate buzz rolls even in like funk and metal and rock music because it's just cool and unique. But this guy, 12 by 6 inch Tama snare, tuned very high. So this is kind of like my piccolo sound, right? So I can go. Definitely do that. And then I like snare drums. I like snare drums a lot. And so I also thought, okay, how would it sound if some of the songs also had more of a grunge type of snare sound? Because I've heard that some of the songs written by Primus, and less notably, definitely with the rhythms he uses, has a grunge kind of element. So I thought, well, sonically, it'd be kind of cool to have not a very low tuned snare, but something a little bit lower, something tuned more medium, and also with a looser snare tension. And again, incorporating some more Nirvana-esque kind of grooves that are a little simpler and a little heavier, like this. Also, I used it as a tom, and it's tuned to 4/2. This drum, which is a snare, but it's not being used as a snare, it's being used as a second floor tom. I do not have enough room on the right side of my kit to put a second floor tom because I decided to incorporate bongos. More on those later. So I put it here, and I actually really like it. It's with it's with the, there we go. Yeah, much better. It's with the play some cool ostinato stuff on them and stuff like that. Alright, that pretty much covers all the drums. Now cymbals. So, oh boy. All of the Primus, all the drummers who have played for Primus, I have noticed, have had very unique and eclectic and relatively extensive cymbal setups. Splashes, of course, are a huge part of Primus's music, and of course bells and everything. But let's start with the crashes first. So for crashes, I wanted to experiment again with using some trash crashes, right? So kind of tying in a little bit of the vibe of all the super cool, fun, dissonant tritones that so many Primus songs use, and of course Wes plays them all on bass, and tying that in with the cymbal sound. I didn't want to go like all trash crashes, but I chose trash crashes that are similar to crashes, but just are a little less, again, they're a little bit more dissonant, they're a little bit more colorful, a little bit more explosive, kind of bring in the metal element, I think, nicely. So we have a 16-inch TRX. This is a dark. This is a classic. Yeah, this is a classic dark. And this is nice and dark, and it's kind of mellow. It can cut. And I have purposely done the gospel trick where you put a trash crash really close together with a crash. So that way, if you hit either one of them with a lot of force, you get a cool, weird, layered sound naturally, because you're actually playing almost, yeah, the cymbals are touching. Don't want to do it all the time, but it can be cool. 16-inch trash crash, 19-inch AX explosion. One thing I noticed about most of the drummers is their crash sizes are relatively small, but again, with bringing my own vibe, my own personality, and some of my own preferences for cymbal sounds, I like a good, full, pretty big crash. And I feel like 19 inches is a great size where it's not too big, it's not too washy. Like Primus music, you don't want the crashes to be warm and washy. You want them to be on the brighter side. You want them to have a relatively quick decay. So this is a 19-inch AX explosive crash crash. And it works great because it's warm, but it's also glassy, and it can have a relatively quick decay. Of course, for a quicker decay I have with it, we'll jump over here, kind of go out of order. The AAX 17-inch. This is a great complement, pitch-wise and timbre-wise, 2 to 19. Yeah, they just really sound nicely together. And then, of course, we have the 18-inch Classics Custom trash crash. This is the most dissonant trash crash, and this is the most China-like trash crash, I would say. But it's just really nasty and can really cut. This is one of my loudest trash crashes I have, but it's really great for like and stuff on the and, like and then we have that, and then that is where the normal stuff stops and the fun really begins. Because then, as alluded to before, we have splashes. And I tried to combine some more typical sounding splashes with some unique, again, hip hop, funk kind of trash splashes. And so our first splash though is an inverted Sabian XSR. Again, this is very similar to the 10-inch AAX splash and the 8 and stuff like that. That again, I know Tim uses, and I think Herb maybe used some, maybe like AA stuff, possibly. Anyway, 10-inch XSR splash. It's great. It's nice and pleasant sounding. It gets out of the way. It's glassy like the AAX. It has a little less projection because it's a very thin splash, but I love it. it's a great complement to the more dissonant splash from my kit. Another important part of Primus's music when it comes to effect cymbals is a bell. Definitely, there's a definite Rush influence with, especially Tim's playing, right? But the bell is a very important part of, off the top of my hand, I can think of like at least 5 or 6 songs. And I don't necessarily have a bell because the only bell I own is being used on the aux kit that I shared with y'all in the last video. But I do have this 6-inch B8 splash, and what's so cool is since this splash is a B8, well, that's B8X. B8, it's not made to be 20 bronze. It is incredibly bright, and that is perfect because it sounds like a cross between a Zilbel and a Pisces accent cymbal. And then under it, I have an 8-inch Xarian splash. A little trashy, but still not too trashy. So it's a good, again, it's a good complement to the 10 and the 8. And then we have 12-inch Vinyl Classics Custom Dark Trash Splash. Man, I love this trash splash. It's a really cool trash splash to weed into a crash. It's really great for in a more high energy part of the section. You want to hit a cymbal that leads into a crash, but you don't want to just hit another crash because that's a little too much at that point in the music, right? So you hit this maybe on the E, right? We have the 12-inch Wuhan Mini China because it's bringing in kind of the King Crimson vibes. The drummer, I'm trying to remember his name, one of the greatest prog drummers of all time, Bill Bruford. Yeah, kind of bringing in that early 70s Bill Bruford. But it's just a really great accent, and it's very dissonant, which is just perfect for those. Good cymbal to hit on the E's and the I's, kind of. Then we have another splash, yet another splash. This 8-inch vinyl HCS. This is a very cheap splash, but what I love about it is inverted. You get very little sustain. So and then these are splashes, but they're being used as X hats. Because I noticed definitely Tim used X hats, and yeah, they are 12-inch Avitas. I mean, this is a 12-inch Avitas splash, and on the bottom is a Pisces. It's a Pisces 909. Yes, it's a Pisces. That doesn't sound right. It's a. Give me a second. It's a Pisces. Figure it out. This is definitely a good old 12-inch Avitas splash. Oh yes, it's a Pisces. I can't see. Yeah, it's a Pisces 900 series. I was right. Okay, cool. So, just lost a couple wing nuts there. We'll get that later. Anyway, though, yeah, it's and also mounting a splash directly on the aux hats means I can do cool stuff like this. I have easy access to a splash with the main hi-hat. I also have easy access to a splash with the aux hats. And then, of course, last but not least, we have Chinas. Now, I already talked about the 12-inch Mini China, but I have the 12-inch Wuhan Mini China, and I also have the 20-inch Wuhan Mini China. This is for some hardcore halftime blasting. No, I'm kidding. No, this is for again, it's that like big, nasty. I want to use it in a couple of the songs that I tracked. A couple times in the songs I tracked rubber. But it's definitely bringing in that Vinny influence. And who's the other guy? Well, mainly Vinny. But there's a couple other fusion drummers that use a big China on the left, and I'm using it because it's just great. It's for a very extended 2-bar measure fill into an instrumental part of a song. Like, it's cool to kind of subvert musical expectations, if you will, by hitting this on the one and then hitting a crash on the and, especially when going into a section with a lot of syncopated rhythms and high energy, high volume sections like the jams for Wackerhead and the jams for John was a fisherman. John was a fisherman. Yeah. Cool. And then one thing I always like to do when I have an assortment of cymbals and I have more than one type of cymbal is I really like to make sure they each do a really distinct thing, both in timbre but also pitch wise. So I have this 12-inch, right? And then I have this 20-inch, and then I also have this 18-inch Peisty Dimension spin china. Of course, I have a sisal chain on it, and I have it mounted not how you would typically mount a drum set china. I have it mounted the traditional way, and that's kind of like, again, it's bringing in a little bit more of the jam band influence, and you know, with the Grateful Dead, the Fish, yeah, Fish, Grateful Dead, stuff like that. But you know, some of those drummers that play for those bands have a pang, and this is kind of my way of simulating a pang type sound. Oh well, I think I forgot the ride cymbal. So this again is a very good. I wanted a thick ride. I want it to be relatively marshy. I prefer rides that have a nice underlying spread to them. That's just part of my personal preference as the cymbal sounds that I like to use. But I definitely wanted something with a lot of stick definition and a really, really good bell. Exactly. That covers cymbals. But of course, I added aux percussion. Again, after getting inspired by seeing some tempo blocks mounted on the left of Tim's drum set for one of the shows that I checked y'all out on YouTube, I was like, yeah, well, again, let's experiment with adding some percussion to some of the songs. Again, going in that Fish meets Grateful Dead meets the King and Goose, really. Just experimenting with that more jam band direction. So, mounted percussion, we have a bunch of random fun stuff. In the cowbell category, we have a very, very high cowbell. A medium low cowbell, I would say. This is a Rhythm Tech Studio cowbell. That little high cowbell was a Tycoon. I think it's called a Chachicha bell. But yeah, Rhythm Tech 8-inch cowbell. Again, kind of medium low. Sounds really good with that guy. And of course, a bongo cowbell. I experimented with adding some cowbell into John was a Fisherman. Just for the first verse. It talks about growing up on the farm, and cows. So, fun little word painting. Speaking of cowbells, I also, for some reason, have, everything has a reason, this cowbell, which I play on the bottom edge, and it's just a very dry cowbell, and I purposefully put a cymbal over it to just get me a really dry, really, not dull, but just dry and industrial, yeah. So think like an LP mambo bell with the rock ridger. And then that's cowbells. Blocks. Again, I've got a red jam block. Got a pearl block. I've got this frog block that I just kind of, again, it's just kind of like a random thing. I didn't want to use just all typical Latin percussion mounted stuff, so I wanted to kind of mix it up a little bit. And it's like this frog and stuff. And then of course LP cymbal blocks. And I have this little cowbell. I got it like a football game or something. But it's like a little higher pitched, and it even still has the clapper in. But it's bringing in that industrial found sound kind of. Actually sound really cool together. Vibe. And then of course we have purposely I put a set of mini Mark tree, because I wanted to experiment with using a Mark tree, but I wanted to just do it in a very weird way. And so this is, I don't even know how to describe this sound, but basically this is what you get when you put a little tiny Mark tree that has a double row on, like directly on top of cowbells. You get this. Just as weird. I didn't end up using that particular sound in any of the songs, but I do use it in the mostly improvised solo that's also included with the audition package. And then of course we have some handheld stuff. We have everything from shakers to casilla based shakers to egg shakers thingies to cabassa to this shaker, this good old shaker, to a maraca, yay! Yep. And then for I decided to cover y'all's cover of the song from the Willy Wonka movie musical, I've Got a Golden Ticket. And I was like, okay, let's try out so much Foley percussion in the interludes. So, for Foley percussion, I also have a triangle. So yeah, for that song I used a triangle, not Foley percussion, but just like, kind of like a little orchestral element at the beginning of the intro. I never thought my life would be anything. That. It's very fun. And then, got a slide whistle. Yes, indeed. Ratchet. And I have it mounted so I can do the crank effect. So like the groove for that song's like lots of toms, but you add into like stuff like that. So that's fun. Just a little fun flavor to accentuate the very whimsical and wacky nature of that song that is so brilliantly illustrated musically by all of Wes's bass licks, and I think there's some synth on that track, and just everything he does with the melody where it's just wow. It's so much fun. That was one of my favorite things to track for sure. And then we have of course vibraslap on both kits, right? Gotta have that. vibraslap. And then bongos. Again, this is bringing in kind of the jam band influences. I use these on kind of an orchestral way on I've Got a Golden Ticket. But then I also, on John Was a Fisherman, I also used them in a groove like you'd have, again, like a band like Fish. The percussionist is augmenting the groove with hand drum patterns and also covers from shakers and judicial use of fun sound effect stuff. Like, for instance, that kind of sounds like this. And last but not least, I have a tambourine. Okay, so yeah, thank y'all so much for checking out this video, and have a great week. Oh, and of course, one more sound effect. I, of course, used this is featured in I've Got a Golden Ticket, the flexatone. And I also used this weird stack, going back to cymbals. Also used this weird stack and put together of a 14-inch Adidas hi-hat and a 12-inch auxiliary splash with a tambourine thing on it. As kind of a very strange and odd type of clap stack kind of sound to, again, bring in the funk to accentuate all the funky grooves and accentuate the bat beats, especially on the floor, right? That about covers it. So, thank y'all. Have a great week.